The fake demon castle was supposed to be made of foam, but someone filled it with concrete, so it killed me before my first line. I opened my eyes at another world's awakening altar, where 600 students laughed because the system had made me an actor. The blue crystal above my palm repeated the word in a calm voice. Class confirmed. Actor. Combat bonus? None. Production bonus? None. Registered skills? None. The laughter grew so loud that dust fell from the ceiling. I looked at the crystal, then at the unfamiliar hand beneath it. Memories arrived a moment later. My name in this world was Raiden. I was 17. I had studied at Lumen Academy for 3 years. I had earned my place through written exams because my family had no money and no famous bloodline. I had also waited my whole life for this awakening. That life had lasted exactly long enough to become a public joke. The 600 students stood in curved rows around the altar. Swordsmen wore red badges. Mages wore blue, healers wore white. My badge remained gray. At the front of the hall, Thalen tapped the ranking slate with one finger. He was the head of the combat faculty. His silver uniform had more medals than some small armies. Raiden, he said, your natural strength is 6, your speed is 7, your mana is 5, the academy average is 10. Without a class bonus, you do not qualify for combat instruction. I raised my hand. The crystal stopped before the skill test. I request a second reading. That was not begging. It was procedure. The academy rules allowed one repeat when a crystal produced 3 empty results. Thalen did not even look at the rules carved beside him. Denied. Awakening crystals do not make mistakes. The crystal behind him flickered twice, which was a brave attempt to disagree. No one cared. Korvik stepped out of the front row. His new class was Sword Adept. His strength had risen from 12 to 27, and his family sponsor had already placed his portrait above the academy gate. He smiled at me like a peacock that had discovered armor. An actor is useful, he said. Someone has to perform at our victory banquet. More laughter rolled through the hall. Korvik picked up a wooden crown from the ceremonial props and threw it at my feet. One point struck my ankle. Bow for us, your majesty. I picked up the crown and examined it. The wood was cracked, but the red paint was good. In my former world, I had spent 6 years as an understudy and stunt actor. I knew what cheap paint looked like. I also knew how an audience moved when it smelled weakness. 600 faces leaned forward. They wanted anger. Tears would have been even better. I put the crown on my head and gave them a perfect royal bow. My first performance is free, I said. The next one will cost you. Several students stopped laughing. Korvik's smile tightened. He had expected a wounded mouse. The mouse had handed him an invoice. Thalen struck the floor with his staff. Enough. Raiden's combat scholarship of 2 gold coins per month is revoked. His room in the North Dormitory will be reassigned tonight. He will report to the theater club as a non-combat student. He turned toward the ranking slate. My name appeared at the bottom. Raiden, actor, rank 600 out of 600. The hall doors opened. That was the polite way of saying I had been thrown away. I left while everyone watched. By the time I crossed the courtyard, my empty class result had gathered 400 comments. Most suggested jobs involving costumes or trained geese. I counted my money beneath the old clock tower, 9 copper coins. A hot meal in the dining hall cost 12. My dorm key would stop working at sunset. The theater club paid no regular stipend because its entire monthly budget was 23 silver coins and a bag of nails. The numbers were bad. Bad numbers were still better than panic. Panic never paid rent. The theater stood behind the combat halls. Its roof leaned left. Its front steps leaned right. Together, they created the impression of a building trying to escape in 2 directions. I pushed open the door. A painted moon swung from a rope above me. A girl on a ladder shouted, "Move!" I moved. The moon crashed where my head had been and split into 3 pieces. Good reflexes for an actor, she said. She climbed down. She had dark gold hair tied behind her neck and a white class mark on her wrist. The memories in my new head identified her as Lysera, leader of the theater club and a light acolyte. She could close small wounds, create a lamp-sized glow, and make holy water taste slightly less terrible. An older student crawled out from behind the fallen moon with a spool of wire between her teeth. Her name was Ivania. She managed the props, costumes, accounts, lights, curtains, and every other job that people remembered only after something caught fire. Lysera looked at the wooden crown on my head. So the notice was true. The crown was not included in my official benefits, I said. I stole it from the floor. Ivania removed the wire from her mouth. Excellent. We finally recruited someone with financial instincts. Lysera did not laugh at my class. She glanced at my bruised ankle instead. Korvik threw that crown. It was not a question. His aim needs work. So does his personality. Unfortunately, the sword faculty does not test that. The hall held 200 seats, though 31 were broken. A storage room behind the dusty stage contained a narrow bed. You can sleep there, Lysera said. Thalen sent word that your old room is already occupied. The injustice was efficient. I respected the speed, if nothing else. Ivania handed me a broom. The Winter Festival is in 4 days. We are performing the fall of the first Demon King. We have 9 actors, 11 roles, and 1 demon throne that smells like wet cabbage. Welcome to the arts. I swept until sunset. At midnight, I was lying on the storage room bed with the wooden crown beside me when the system spoke inside my mind. Foreign soul synchronization complete. Delayed class evaluation has ended. I sat up. The voice explained the result without showing a window. My public class was actor. Its true path was ideal actor. Master of roles waited as its second stage. Hero of 1,000 faces was the final evolution. There was only one skill, living role. While another person sincerely accepted my performance, the role became my real active class. Its strength depended on the witnesses, their belief, and my understanding. I could hold one role at a time. Without an audience or after breaking character, I lost everything. I stared at the cracked crown. In this world, one person received one class. A swordsman could train new techniques, but he could never become a mage. A healer could carry a spear, but the system would never give her spear skills. I had received the class everyone called useless. It allowed me to become any class that people believed I was. I laughed once, quietly. Concrete had killed me. Theater had brought me back. The universe had a simple sense of humor. The storage room door opened. Lysera stood there with a candle and an old script. Were you laughing alone in the dark? I received good news. Did the roof stop leaking? Not that good. She held up the script. Ivania says you worked as if the dust owed you money. I need to know whether you can actually act. Our knight quit this afternoon because his parents saw your awakening notice and decided the club was cursed. The role was called the Ash Knight. He guarded a city gate after every other soldier fled. His armor was broken. His left leg was wounded. He knew he would die, but he stood because people were behind him. It was a small role with 12 lines. It was enough. Lysera took me to the stage. Ivania woke when we lit the lamps and came out wearing a blanket like an angry ghost. She helped me into old leather armor. It weighed 7 pounds. The wooden sword was badly balanced. One boot was larger than the other. I read the scene twice. Then I asked Lysera to stand beyond the stage and play the frightened messenger. I am not in this scene, she said. You are now. Tell me the enemy has broken the outer wall. She folded her arms. The enemy has broken the outer wall. Say it as if your friends are dying. Her expression changed. The enemy has broken the outer wall. There are too many. We have to run. I lowered my shoulders. I shifted my weight away from the injured leg. I let the wooden sword hang as if my fingers had lost feeling. Then I looked past Lysera, not at the empty seats, but at the families my character believed were hiding there. If I run, I said, who teaches the enemy to stop? The theater became silent. For 3 breaths, Lysera forgot that my sword was wood. The system spoke. One sincere witness recognized the Ash Knight. Living role has activated. Temporary class confirmed. Sword Knight. Level 4. Heat entered my muscles. My injured stance stopped being an imitation. I knew how to place the damaged leg so it could support a thrust. My palms remembered thousands of strikes I had never practiced. The sword became light. Ivania dropped her blanket. I moved through the knight's final sequence. The first cut split a falling leaf tossed from the balcony. The second severed the rope holding an old iron counterweight. The third stopped the counterweight before it struck the floor. The iron disc weighed 80 pounds. I held it on the flat of a wooden sword. Lysera's mouth opened. Ivania whispered, that prop cost 4 silver. Please do not discover fire magic tonight. We hurried to the training stone behind the theater. My natural strength had measured 6 that morning. While Lysera watched me as the Ash Knight, the stone measured 24. My speed rose from 7 to 18. My sword accuracy rose from 0 to 91 out of 100. Then Lysera called my real name. I turned toward her and answered. The roll broke. The iron disc pulled the wooden sword from my hand and buried it in the dirt. My strength returned to 6. I also discovered that borrowed muscles could leave real pain. Both arms began shaking. Lysera caught my elbow before I fell. What are you? Currently, tired. Raiden. An actor, I said. Apparently, a good one. Ivania walked around the training stone 3 times. Then she hit it with her measuring stick, as if fraud might fall out. 24, she said. The stone has not produced 24 since Korvik's awakening. Footsteps sounded beyond the courtyard. Someone had seen the cut rope from a dormitory window. Rumors traveled faster at night because students had nothing useful to do. Korvik entered through the side gate with almost 200 students behind him. Some wore sleeping coats. One still carried a pillow. All of them held message crystals. Korvik saw the number glowing on the training stone. A stage trick, he said. His sponsor badge shone on his collar. If an actor matched his awakening score on the same night, that portrait above the gate would become very funny. Then you have nothing to fear, I said. Lysera stepped between us. This is a theater rehearsal, not a duel. Korvik drew his steel practice sword. Good. He can rehearse losing. The students formed a circle. Message crystals rose into the air. By morning, the entire academy would see whatever happened next. I could not activate the Ash Knight by explaining my skill. They had to accept the role. At that moment, they saw only a weak actor in borrowed armor, so I limped toward the stage door. Korvik laughed and followed. Running already? I pushed the door open. Lamps still burned along the stage. The painted city wall stood behind me. The empty theater waited beyond him. I turned beneath the light and became the wounded knight again. You crossed the outer wall, I told Korvik. That was your last easy step. A few students stopped smiling. Korvik swung. I raised the wooden sword. Steel struck wood. The sound cracked through the hall. My arms did not move. The system's voice remained calm while the audience lost its mind. 183 witnesses had accepted the Ash Knight. My temporary class rose from level 4 to level 12. My strength reached 38. My sword accuracy reached 96. Korvik attacked 6 times. I blocked 6 times. On his 7th strike, I turned my wrist and cut the first strap on his shoulder guard. On the 8th, I cut the second. His metal guard slid down his arm and trapped his elbow. The crowd gasped. On the 9th, I removed his belt buckle. His armor did not fall all at once. That would have been dignified. It came apart piece by piece. One plate struck the floor, then another, then 3 more. Korvik sounded like a cupboard falling down a staircase. Someone in the back began laughing. The laugh spread. Korvik's face turned red. He raised his sword with both hands and charged. I stepped inside his reach. My wooden blade touched his throat before his steel blade crossed half the distance. The gate is closed, I said. He froze. Every crystal recorded it. The Academy dual seal above the stage recognized a clean victory. Blue light crossed the ranking board outside. My name moved from 600th to 318th. The theater earned 20 silver coins. My ideal actor class rose from level 1 to level 3, and the Ash Knight entered my role memory. Power, money, and rank had all moved before breakfast. Korvik stared at the fallen parts of his armor. You cheated. You attacked an actor on a stage, I said. That was a planning problem. Even 2 of his friends laughed at that. Korvik left without his shoulder guard. No one reminded him. It hung from a painted tree until morning. When the students finally went back to their dormitories, my borrowed strength vanished. I sat on the edge of the stage because my legs had become unreliable. Lysera locked the doors. Ivania placed the 20 silver coins in a dented metal box and guarded it with both hands. We are rich, she said. The roof repair costs 2 gold, Lysera reminded her. We are briefly less poor. Let me enjoy it. They took me to the small kitchen beneath the balcony. Lysera reheated a pot of beef stew. The broth was dark and thick. It carried the smell of roasted onion, black pepper, carrots, and meat cooked until it separated beneath a spoon. Ivania cut a round loaf into heavy slices and toasted them in butter. We spread honey over the crisp edges. I had possessed 9 copper coins that afternoon. Now I had a bed, hot food, a class no one understood, and two people who had not thrown anything at me. It was a strong improvement. Lysera watched me finish a second bowl. "When you stood on that stage, I believed you were the knight," she said. "But before that, when everyone was laughing, you carried Ivanya's broken moon instead of asking who would carry your bags. I noticed that too. The moon was lighter than my bags. That is not the point." "I know." For the first time that day, I did not need a role. After dinner, Ivania returned to the stage to collect the armor. She called us a minute later. A black coin lay in the center of the front row. It was warm. One side showed a horned crown. The other showed a man sitting on a throne, but someone had scratched away his face. No student recognized the medal. The system did. It told me that one of the 183 witnesses had not believed I was pretending. That witness had believed an ancient king had truly returned. By sunrise, the recording of Korvik's armor falling apart had been viewed 12,000 times. Someone added music to it. Someone else slowed down the moment his belt buckle flew into the painted tree. The Academy message board gave that version 5 stars. My name remained at rank 318, but the line beneath it had changed. Instead of useless actor, students had begun writing the Knight of the Broken Gate. Reputation was not an official statistic. It was still useful. A crowd could not believe in a role it refused to watch. I found the black coin in the same place where I had left it. It had cooled during the night. No symbol appeared when I pressed it against the system mark on my wrist. That meant I had one unknown spectator, one ancient coin, and no answer. I put it in my pocket. Mysteries were easier to solve after breakfast. Lysera fried potato cakes in the theater kitchen. Their edges turned brown and crisp in butter. She placed 2 eggs over each one, then covered them with onions cooked until they were sweet. Ivania poured strong tea and counted yesterday's earnings for the 4th time. 43 silver in the club box, she said. This is the most money we have owned in 2 years. One roof beam costs 60, Lysera said. Please stop attacking my happiness. I ate while reading an academy rulebook. The first public announcement bell rang before I reached the 3rd page. Thalen's voice came from every message crystal in the school. All students will gather in the East Training Court. Attendance is required. Lysera turned off the stove. He waited until breakfast. That makes it personal. 600 students filled the court. Teachers stood around the ranking pillar. Korvik waited near Thalen in new armor. Every strap was twice as thick as before. His sponsor's golden crest was still on his collar, but a red thread had been tied around it. I knew that mark from Raiden's memories. It meant a final warning. Korvik noticed me looking. My contract paid 50 gold per year, he said quietly when I reached the front. One more public loss and they cancel it. You turned my future into a joke for a stage trick. That explained the anger. It did not excuse the sword he had swung at my head. You chose the stage, I said. His jaw tightened. Thalen raised his staff. The court became silent. Last night, an unregistered class effect was used during a ranked challenge. Until its nature is confirmed, Raiden's victory remains provisional. Disappointed murmurs moved through the crowd. Students had enjoyed the recording. They did not want an adult to explain why it had been less entertaining than it looked. Thalen pointed toward the Academy's monster course. Raiden will enter today's open qualifier. If his ability is legitimate, he will complete the same course as every combat student. If he fails, his rank will return to 600, and the theater club will lose its charter for hosting illegal magic. Lysera stepped forward. The club did not know about his ability. Punish the person who used it. A club leader is responsible for her stage. His motive was simple. Thalen's funding came from noble sponsors who paid for predictable combat classes. An actor matching their chosen swordsman made his judgment look weak. Closing the theater would remove my audience and my home at the same time. He expected me to object. I opened the rulebook. Open qualifiers pay 3 gold coins to any unseated student who clears the advanced lane. The academy also covers medical costs. Thalen's eyes narrowed. That rule is intended for experienced third-year students. It does not say that. Whispers became laughter. Rules were less impressive when a poor student actually read them. I closed the book. I accept the advanced lane. The ranking pillar flashed. The challenge became official before Thalen could change the wording. 3 gold coins would buy the roof beam, repair the front seats, and leave enough for food. The advanced lane also contained a real monster. Power, money, and status waited in the same place. That was convenient. The qualifier began at noon. We had 3 hours to prepare a new role. Ivania found an old play called The Last Hunt. Its hero was a gray-cloaked ranger who crossed a frozen forest to kill an ironback boar. Lysara borrowed a ranger manual from the library. I studied the animal's weak points, the shape of its tracks, the proper grip for a short spear, and the way a hunter distributed weight on wet ground. Understanding mattered. If I wore a green coat and claimed to be an archmage, the audience would see a man wearing a curtain. Living role did not reward confidence without detail. Ivania cut down the Ash Knight's damaged cloak and dyed it gray. She attached 6 narrow pockets for wire, chalk, resin, and small blades. "This was our second best curtain," she said. "Try not to bleed on it." "What happened to the best curtain?" "Korvik fell through it last night." Lysara played the hunter's younger sister during rehearsal. Ivania watched from the balcony. With 2 sincere witnesses, the Grey Hunter appeared as a temporary class at level 5. My speed rose to 22. My hearing sharpened enough to catch a mouse moving beneath the stage. The role ended when the rehearsal did. My body kept none of the speed. My ideal actor class had risen to level 3, but it remained a stage, not an army. Without belief, I was still the student with 6 strength and 5 mana. If Thalen blocked the audience or destroyed the performance, 1 boar would turn me into a red mark on the ground. So I planned for the first 10 seconds, before belief arrived. 400 students filled the monster arena. The remaining students watched through crystals in the dining hall and dormitories. The course was a stone maze with mud, dead trees, and high observation walls. Thalen stood in the judge's tower. Korvik stood beside him. The gate opened. I walked into the maze wearing the gray cloak and carrying a short spear. There was no applause. Most students expected a trick. The Grey Hunter did not activate. I knelt beside the first track. The hoof mark was 6 inches wide. Mud had filled its forward edge. The creature had turned left less than a minute ago. I touched a broken branch. Fresh resin coated the inside. "It circled behind the western wall," I said. The viewing crystals carried my voice. At the first intersection, I threw a stone down the right path and stepped left before the echo returned. An ironback boar charged through the place where I had been standing. It weighed nearly 800 pounds. Black metal plates covered its body. Its tusks were longer than my arms. The audience inhaled as one. I did not run. I lowered my spear and watched the monster. 1 witness accepted the hunter, then 10, then 80. Heat entered my legs. The Grey Hunter activated at level 7. My speed rose from 7 to 26. My spear accuracy reached 88 out of 100. The boar charged again. I stepped sideways, cut a leather pouch, and spread yellow resin across its eye plates. The creature struck a dead tree. I looped wire around its back leg and anchored it to a buried stone. It tore the stone from the ground. The crowd screamed. Thalen's advanced lane was designed for a team of 3. The system had supplied a class, not a second body. I still had to solve the weight difference. The boar lowered its head for a 3rd charge. A second roar came from behind me. Another ironback broke through the eastern gate. The rules allowed 1 monster. The viewing crystals showed Thalen looking down at the course with a calm face. He had prepared the extra creature before issuing the challenge. Students began shouting from the stands. "There are 2. Stop the trial. Open the exit." The exit remained closed. The second boar rushed me. I ran toward the first. Korvik leaned over the judge's rail. His face had lost its color. "He saw the second track," he whispered. "He knew before the gate opened. He is leading them into each other." For the first time, he did not see a weak actor. He saw a hunter who had already chosen the place of the kill. The system reacted. Korvik's hostile belief carried more force than 20 friendly cheers. Fear was still belief. The Grey Hunter rose from level 7 to level 11. My speed reached 34. I jumped. The first boar passed beneath me. The second struck it head-on. Metal plates split. Both monsters rolled through the mud like 2 angry wagons thrown down a hill. I landed on the wounded one's back and drove the spear between the plates behind its neck. I twisted once. The creature stopped moving. The other rose with 1 broken tusk. I pulled the wire connected to the buried stone. I had not anchored it for the boar. I had placed it across the narrow path at knee height. The second creature charged. The wire caught its front legs. 800 pounds continued forward without them. The boar slid beneath the observation tower and struck the wall hard enough to crack it. I placed the spear against its exposed throat. "The forest is closed," I said. The line came from the play. 400 students shouted it back. The advanced lane seal turned gold. My provisional victory became official. The Academy Treasury transferred 3 gold coins to my account. The ranking pillar moved my name from 318th to 71st. In the stands, students who had called actor useless that morning were trying to buy gray cloaks from Ivania. She accepted 6 orders before Lacera made her stop. Thalon descended from the judge's tower. "The course was not complete," he said. The final gate opened behind him. Corvic entered the arena with his sword drawn. "The qualifier includes a ranked duel," Thalon announced. Corvic volunteered. The crowd booed. That sound surprised Corvic more than my spear had surprised the boars. Yesterday, the crowd had belonged to him. He walked close enough that only I could hear him. "Withdraw. I need 1 clean victory. My sponsor will keep the contract if I defeat you in an official match." "Will you leave the theater alone?" He glanced toward Thalon. "I cannot promise that." At least he answered honestly. "Then earn the victory." His expression hardened. "I am a real sword adept. Your trick depends on people pretending with you. Then stop being afraid." The duel bell rang. Corvic crossed 20 feet before its echo faded. His strength was 31. His sword adept class had reached level 18. A direct block would break my spear. I threw the spear away. The audience gasped. Corvic hesitated for half a step. That was enough. I disappeared behind a dead tree, rolled beneath his first cut, and marked the back of his boot with white chalk. He spun. I was already behind the cracked wall. The Grey Hunter remained active. I did not need to become a swordsman. I only needed Corvic to become prey. He attacked shadows. I moved through the course, touching his armor with chalk each time he exposed a joint. 1 mark appeared on his knee. Another appeared beneath his sword arm. A third crossed his throat guard. The students saw the pattern before he did. They began counting. 4. I marked his left wrist. 5. I marked his backplate. 6. Corvic roared and used his strongest sword skill. A crescent of blue force cut through 3 dead trees. I pulled the wire I had left around the western trunk. The second-best theater curtain dropped from the observation wall and covered him from head to foot. Ivania stared at me from the stands. "He bled on it," she said. "I knew he would bleed on it." Corvic cut through the cloth. I was waiting on the other side. The blunt end of my spear touched the white mark on his throat. 7! The crowd shouted. The duel seal flashed. Corvic's sword fell from his hand. I could have driven the spear forward. Instead, I stepped back and lowered it. He looked around the arena. 400 students had seen every mark. The sponsor crest on his collar changed from red to black. His contract was gone. He sank to 1 knee. I did not laugh. Losing 50 gold because he had followed Thalon into a rigged duel was punishment enough. Thalon had expected me to crush Corvic's pride. I did something more dangerous. I offered him a hand. After a long moment, Corvic took it. The crowd became quiet, then applauded. My rank rose from 71st to 32nd. My ideal actor class reached level 6. The Grey Hunter entered my role memory beside the Ash Knight. More important, Corvic looked at Thalon instead of me when he left the arena. One enemy had begun to understand who had used him. Thalon raised his staff before the applause ended. A hunter defeating a swordsman proves nothing about the actor classification. Tomorrow, Raiden will undergo the 3 Foundations trial before the full academy. He will face a master of the sword, a master of magic, and a master of healing. The arena went silent. No fixed class could pass all 3. If he fails 1 foundation, Thalon continued, every result will be void. Raiden will be expelled. The theater charter will be revoked. Students shouted objections. He ignored them. I looked at the 3 gold coins recorded on my crystal. "Does the trial have a prize?" I asked. Thalon's mouth formed a thin line. 100 gold coins. "Then I accept." The shouting doubled. We returned to the theater after sunset. Ivania spent 1 gold coin on a roof beam before anyone could invent a new rule. She spent 12 silver on training manuals, 8 on cloth, and 6 on food. Dinner was a whole roast chicken rubbed with salt, garlic, and sweet pepper. Its skin cracked beneath the knife. fat soaked into potatoes arranged beneath it. Lysera added noodles to the pan and stirred them through the dark juices. We ate on the stage because the kitchen table was covered with costume pieces. Korvik arrived while we were dividing the last potato. He placed a sword manual beside my plate. "The sword champion tomorrow uses a low feint before his third strike," he said. "Thalen told him to break your right hand." Then he left. Lysera watched the door close. Was that an apology? It was shaped like one. Ivania opened the manual. "Can you learn 3 classes by tomorrow?" "I do not need to learn 3 classes," I said. "I need 3 audiences to believe 3 performances." The system spoke before I could sound confident. It warned me that Ideal Actor could support 3 complete role changes in one day. A 4th change would cause identity bleed. One personal memory would disappear until the role released it, and the system could not guarantee which memory it would take. At that exact moment, the official trial notice slid beneath the theater door. Thalen had added a 4th round. After the sword, magic, and healing masters, I would face the Academy's class-nullifying execution golem. At dawn, the line outside the city stadium reached the river. Thalen had moved the trial there and sold 3,200 tickets at 1 silver each. The theater received nothing. We had slept for less than 2 hours. Lysera brought buns filled with beef, green onion, and melted cheese. Ivania poured cinnamon apple tea while I studied sword notes, fire patterns, and healing prayers. Korvik joined us without his sponsor crest. He warned me that the sword champion had been told to break my hand. The healer depended on Thalen for her brother's tuition, and none of the 3 masters knew about the golem. "Why help me?" I asked. "Because I watched Thalen open the second monster gate. I called it necessary until you pulled me from the mud." I gave him the last hot bun. Trust needed useful actions more than speeches. By mid-morning, merchants surrounded the stadium with wooden swords and gray cloaks. One had painted my face on a potato. The potato looked more confident than I felt. My name occupied the 32nd line of the ranking board. The 100 gold prize waited in a glass chest. Thalen had invited city officials and every academy sponsor. He would gain 3,000 silver, remove an embarrassing student, and prove that fixed classes could not be challenged. His plan only required me to lose. The first bell rang. The sword champion entered wearing polished blue armor. He was a 4th-year student with a level 17 swordmaster class and 80 official victories. He bowed to me without mockery. "Thalen ordered me to target your right hand," he said softly. "I will not do that, but I will not surrender." "Good," I said. "The audience would notice." I wore the damaged armor of the Ash Knight. The city wall backdrop had been moved behind my gate. Lysera stood beyond it in a messenger's cloak. 3,000 people watched. Most had seen the recording. A recording created curiosity. A live entrance demanded proof. The champion drew his blade. I lowered my weight onto the false injured leg and spoke the line they remembered. "If I run, who teaches the enemy to stop?" The front rows answered first. The Ash Knight. Belief struck harder than the morning sun. The role activated at level 18. My strength rose from 6 to 42. My sword accuracy reached 97 out of 100. The ideal knight in the audience's mind was stronger than any historical soldier who had inspired the play. That was the day's first discovery. Living Role did not copy an ordinary professional. It built the class people believed the role deserved. The champion attacked. His shoulder dipped before the 3rd strike exactly as Korvik had warned. 7 blue cuts appeared around me. I moved forward. 6 passed behind my back. I struck the 7th, and the force split my wooden sword. When the champion lunged through the opening, I caught the falling half and placed both broken points against his chest. The dual seal flashed gold. For one silent second, the stadium stared at the 2 pieces of wood touching a real swordmaster's heart. Then the sound hit like a storm. The champion lowered his weapon and bowed. "I believed the knight would stop me," he said. "That was when I lost." His honesty made the applause louder. My rank moved from 32nd to 12th. The system raised my ideal actor class from level 6 to level 9. The Ash Knight's role depth increased, but my natural strength returned to 6 the moment I left the stage. I carried the broken sword out myself. Thalen did not clap. 20 minutes later, Ivania replaced the wall with a painted night sky and put me in a robe covered with silver stars. I looked like a curtain had married a chandelier. The level 19 Flame Scholar raised 9 fire spears. My natural mana was 5, and the audience did not yet believe the robe. She launched 1 spear. "Small fires should wait until the stars finish speaking," I said. Mirrors and Lysara's light turned the backdrop into a night sky. The spear stopped 6 inches from my finger. The Star Archmage activated at level 14, and my mana rose from 5 to 140. I turned the captured fire around and created 11 more spears. The audience stood as 12 flames faced her remaining 8. Our spells collided. I sent 6 surviving spears into Thalen's safety barrier. Instead of breaking it, they folded it around his platform. He looked like an angry fish trapped in an orange lantern. The laughter raised my roll to level 22. The Flame Scholar created a fire lion. My 12 flames joined into a dragon, swallowed her spell, and stopped with its jaws around her staff. "I surrender," she said. The dragon became harmless sparks above the cheering crowd. The ranking board moved my name from 12th to 4th. Thalen's barrier cube opened at the same moment. Smoke rose from one of his medals. "Decorative damage," Ivania said from backstage. "Very expensive decorative damage." The Star Archmage roll collapsed when I bowed. The 140 mana vanished. My head felt hollow, and my hands were cold. 2 complete roll changes remained safe according to the system. 1 would be needed for healing. 1 would be needed for the execution golem. The arithmetic looked good. Then the system corrected me. The Ash Knight had been the first roll of the day. The Star Archmage had been the second. The healer would be the third. The golem would require the fourth. The arithmetic had teeth. There was a 1-hour meal break before the healing trial. City vendors entered the lower stadium. Lysara found a quiet stone bench behind the stage. She brought roasted beef skewers glazed with honey and pepper, corn brushed with salted butter, and 2 cups of cold sweet milk. Ivania guarded the costumes while eating 3 skewers at once. Korvik sat near the door and pretended not to guard us. Lysara placed the largest piece of beef on my plate. "You are shaking." The mage had more mana than my body knew how to lose. She wrapped both hands around mine. Her light acolyte spell moved through my fingers. It could not restore borrowed mana, but it warmed the joints. "You can stop," she said. Beyond the door, 3,000 people chanted the name of the Star Archmage. "If I stop, Thalen closes your home. It is your home too. That means you are allowed to choose it, not die for it." She was not asking for a heroic answer. That was why I gave her an honest one. "I will stop if the 4th roll begins erasing more than I can recover. Until then, 100 gold buys a very strong roof." Ivania raised a skewer. Finally, a hero with correct priorities. The warm food settled the shaking. For 15 minutes, we were not a strange class facing execution. We were 4 tired students sharing buttered corn behind a loud arena. Then a medical bell rang. The 3rd trial waited. 3 wounded city guards lay on white beds in the center of the arena. Controlled curse marks covered their arms. The task was to remove the marks without damaging the patients. The Academy's senior healer stood beside the first bed. Her class was Lifeweaver at level 20. She looked pale. "These are not the practice curses I prepared," she whispered when I approached. "The 3rd man is dying." Thalen's voice crossed the stadium. "Begin." The Lifeweaver placed both hands over the first guard. Green light spread along his arm. I wore a plain white coat. Lysara had given me her silver sun pendant. The role was the Saint of Dawn from the winter play. In the story, the saint walked through a plague camp and healed strangers until sunrise. The crowd did not laugh at this costume. They had watched me become 2 impossible classes. Expectation had become the first layer of belief. I knelt beside the dying guard. Black veins had reached his neck. His pulse struck 4 times, paused, then struck twice. Night glass poison. The healing manual said 1 drop killed a strong adult in 10 minutes. This man had less than 2. "There was no poison in the announced trial," I said. Thalen did not answer. I looked at the crowd, then at Lysara. She played the saint's wounded companion from the first row. "Please," she said, "do not let the dawn come too late." I touched the guard's chest. "Dawn is not late," I answered. "People only stop looking east." The Saint of Dawn activated at level 24. My 5 mana became 210. White light filled the arena. The Lifeweaver stopped her spell and stared. I drew the poison from the guard's veins. It emerged as black smoke and twisted around my wrists. I closed my hands. The smoke became clear water and fell across the floor. His pulse steadied. The crowd did not cheer yet. 3,000 people held their breath. I placed one hand toward each of the other beds. Light crossed the distance in 2 straight paths. The controlled curses broke at the same moment. All 3 guards sat up. The stadium erupted. The Life Weaver examined the first patient, then turned toward Thalen. This was real night glass. He would have died. Lysera searched beneath the bed. Her fingers closed around a blue vial attached to the curse line. The Academy seal was pressed into its wax. Every recording crystal turned toward it. Thalen stood. The intensity was necessary to verify the class. The booze began in the upper seats and rolled downward. He had wanted public proof. He received it. My name rose from 4th to 1st on the Academy board. The glass chest beneath it unlocked. 100 gold coins became mine. Ivania reached the chest before the treasurer finished speaking and sat on it. For security, she explained. The Saint of Dawn ended. My mana returned to 5. The 3rd safe roll change was complete. Thalen struck his staff against the judge platform. The arena gates closed. The final verification has not occurred. Stone panels opened beneath the ranking board. The execution golem rose from the floor. It stood 12 feet tall. Black iron covered its arms. A null crystal burned inside its chest. The golem had been built to hunt criminals whose classes were too dangerous for ordinary guards. Its registered combat level was 35. Thalen turned the control key. If your power is merely a collection of stolen class effects, the null field will expose you. The field spread across the stadium. The senior healer's green light vanished. Korvik's sword aura disappeared. Lysara's pendant went dark. The golem looked at me. I had no active role. My natural strength was 6. Begin, Thalen said. The golem crossed the arena in 4 steps. I ran toward the stage backdrop. The crowd shouted my name, but a name was not a role. I needed a 4th performance. Ivania pulled one final rope. The painted stars and white curtains dropped away. Behind them stood the black gate from the fall of the first Demon King. I seized a long coat and an iron staff from the prop table. The character was the last warden, the man who held the prison gate while the first Demon King tried to escape. I knew only 7 of his lines. The golem's fist struck the stage. Wood exploded beneath my feet. I rolled, rose, and faced it with the staff. A gate does not ask what stands outside, I said. It only remembers what must remain closed. The audience had watched 3 impossible victories. They needed less time now. The last warden activated at level 28. The 4th roll entered my mind, and Identity Bleed took 1 memory in payment. I tried to remember my name. There was nothing. The golem attacked again. I blocked with the iron staff. The null field cut the warden's strength nearly in half. But the audience believed he guarded a prison built to contain Malzor. A machine made to arrest students was smaller than that story. The fist drove me backward 20 feet. My boots carved lines through the sand. I did not know who I was. I still knew what the warden protected. I struck the golem's elbow joint. The iron staff bent. I struck the same place again. A black plate cracked. The golem released a wave of null force. The last warden dropped from level 28 to level 19. When my knees hit the ground, the crowd saw the last man at a gate, wounded and still standing. Because that weakness matched the story, level 19 became level 31. I rose. The stadium shook with 3,000 voices. Hold the gate. I caught the golem's 3rd punch with both hands. Its feet left the ground. I turned and threw 12 feet of iron into Thalen's judge platform. The safety barrier stopped it 1 inch from his chair. Thalen fell backward. His metals struck the floor around him like coins from a broken machine. The null crystal in the golem's chest was exposed. I drove the bent staff through it. The field vanished. The execution golem collapsed beneath the ranking board. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ivania placed the night glass vial beneath a recording crystal. Korvik held up the golem's control order. It carried Thalen's personal seal and a target command set only to my name. The evidence appeared on the stadium screen above him. 3,000 witnesses turned toward the judge platform. Thalen tried to stand with dignity. One of his fallen medals rolled beneath his boot. He sat down again much faster than intended. The city governor rose from the sponsor seats. Thalen, you endangered 4 students, released an extra monster, and activated an execution weapon without council approval. You are removed from Academy authority pending trial. The same crowd that had laughed at my actor class watched guards take his staff. Thalen looked at me as he passed. You think this changes the system? Sponsors will leave. Noble houses will panic. A class that can become anything cannot be allowed to remain free. His motive was no longer hidden. He had protected his institution by feeding students to it. Then the system should learn a new role, I said. The crowd heard. His public defeat became the most watched recording in the city before he reached the gate. The last warden role ended. My strength disappeared. My name returned a few seconds later, but not every memory came with it. I remembered that I had lived in another world. I remembered the concrete castle. I could not remember the surname I had used there. Lysera reached me before I fell. Raiden, she said. I repeated it. Raiden. That name belonged to me now. I held it carefully. My ideal actor class rose from level 9 to 18. 4 roles entered my memory, and my stable role limit doubled. Ivania brought the glass chest. The 100 gold coins clicked together inside. One roof? I asked. A roof, new seats, 2 ovens, and a door that locks, she said. We may become civilized. The Academy Board placed a gold line around my name. Rank 1, Champion of the 3 Foundations. Students filled the arena, copying the Knight's stance, the Archmage's line, and the Saint's prayer. They carried my roles away with them. Reputation had become a resource larger than money. A horn sounded at the stadium entrance. Black uniformed officers entered in 2 perfect rows. The crowd moved aside. The man between them wore the silver eye of the Royal Class Bureau. His name was Fendris. Every Academy official bowed. He walked past the broken golem, the poisoned guards, and the removed head of faculty. None of those things interested him. His gaze stopped on the black coin hanging from my pocket. For the first time since I found it, the coin became hot. Fendris looked at me, then at the 3,000 witnesses chanting my name. By order of the capital, he said, this class is now an unlawful anomaly. He pointed at the coin. And its owner is evidence that the first Demon King has begun to return. Fendris expected the word demon to empty the stadium. Instead, 3,000 people stayed where they were. They had watched Thalen call me a fraud, poison a guard, and release an execution golem. Authority had used all its easiest tricks in one afternoon. The audience wanted evidence before it offered fear. The city governor stepped between Fendris and me. The capital may investigate, he said. It may not seize a citizen without a hearing. Fendris looked at the recording crystals. He had arrived to control the story. Arresting the Academy champion while the city chanted my name would create the wrong ending. A public hearing will begin tomorrow at noon, he said. Until then, Raiden will remain under observation. 12 bureau officers followed us back to the theater. They stood around the building all night. Ivania charged them 1 copper each to use the toilet. They are guests, Lysera said. Guests bring food. These are furniture with swords. We did not celebrate the 100 gold prize. We counted it. Ivania placed 60 gold aside for repairs and 20 for the club's yearly expenses. 10 went into an emergency box beneath the stage. 5 bought manuals, cloth, medicine, and food. She divided the remaining 5 among the 4 club members. I had begun the previous morning with 9 copper coins. I now owned 1 gold and 25 silver personally, a quarter share of future performances, and 4 recorded roles. The theater owned enough money to survive the winter. That mattered more than the chant outside. I slept for 3 hours. When I woke, contractors were already replacing the roof. Each hammer strike shook dust onto the storage room bed. Lysera sat beside the door with a notebook. What is your name? She asked. Raiden. Where do you live? Behind the stage, between a broken throne and a box of artificial bones. What do you hate? Wet socks. What do you like? I looked at the plate in her hand. Whatever is under that cloth. She removed it. 2 thick slices of bread held fried sausage, soft egg, and sharp white cheese. Mustard soaked into the warm bread. A bowl of tomato soup steamed beside them. Your memory seems functional, she said. My old surname is still gone. Then we write down everything else. If a role takes another piece, I will give it back. She had filled the first page already. My natural strength was 6. My favorite stew contained beef and too much pepper. I counted doors when entering a room. I made bad jokes when worried. I trusted her. I stopped at the last line. You wrote that. Was it wrong? No. Lysera closed the notebook before I could see whether she was smiling. Fendris arrived at 10. He entered beneath the new roof beam and looked disappointed that the theater had not collapsed overnight. He offered me a contract. The Royal Class Bureau would give me 30 gold per year, a guarded room in the capital, and permission to perform approved roles. In return, I would wear a seal that allowed the Bureau to end any roll and erase my class if ordered. Every class in the kingdom is registered, Fenris said. A farmer grows food, a soldier protects the border, a healer preserves life. Society works because power has a name and a limit. You can change both in front of a crowd. So you tried to call me a demon before asking me to work for you. Fear makes negotiations efficient. He was not a screaming villain. That made him more dangerous. He understood exactly what my class could do to a system built on permanent ranks. If one actor becomes an archmage, he continued, every noble mage wonders why his bloodline matters. Every soldier wonders why he trained for 20 years. Every criminal wonders what costume will open the royal vault. A costume does nothing without belief. Belief is the cheapest resource in politics. He was right about that. I pushed the contract back. 30 gold is less than yesterday's prize. Ivania made an approving sound from behind the curtain. Fenris did not smile. Then prove your value at the hearing. The Hall of Seals stood in the center of the city. 2,000 spectators filled its stone balconies. Silver screens covered their faces so I could not see their reactions. Fenris called it a security measure. It was an audience without expressions. The Capital Broadcast Guild placed 7 large crystals around the central floor. The hearing would be transmitted across the kingdom. Fenris wanted every noble house to watch my failure. Ivania read the performance law while officials tested the crystals. A citizen whose image is used in a paid national broadcast receives 1 copper for every 200 verified viewers, she whispered. Lysara signed the claim before Fenris noticed. How many viewers? 40,000 and rising. Try to look expensive. Fenris began with a natural measurement. The testing stone announced my strength as 6, speed as 7, and mana as 5. A few masked spectators laughed. These are the true numbers, Fenris told the crystals. Everything else is an unstable effect created through audience manipulation. He ordered me to demonstrate 1 roll inside a suppression circle. Ivania rolled out a round shield painted with a silver sun. Lysara fastened a blue cloak around my shoulders. We had chosen the Crown Guardian, hero of a popular capital play. The Guardian had protected the royal family from a stone wyvern without allowing 1 civilian to die. The role was familiar to the viewers. That was important. I stepped into the circle. The silver screens turned opaque. The people in the hall became silent shapes. I raised the shield. The crown may stand behind me, I said. Nothing else will. No power came. The local audience could hear the line, but I could not feel their belief. The screens blocked more than faces. Runes along their edges separated the spectators from the performance. Fenris waited 5 seconds. As expected. Then the system spoke. 47,600 remote witnesses had accepted the Crown Guardian. Living roll activated across the broadcast link. The temporary class appeared at level 40. My strength rose from 6 to 70. My speed reached 58. The shield defense rating reached 96 out of 100. The suppression circle cracked beneath my boots. Every broadcast crystal flashed white. The silver screens did not matter. Belief could travel through a crystal. Fenris had brought me the largest audience of my life. His face remained calm for almost 2 seconds. Then something roared beneath the hall. The floor split open. A stone wyvern climbed through the testing gate. It was 30 feet long. Its wings struck both sides of the chamber. Red control chains hung from its neck, but 3 locks had been opened. The announced hearing included no live monster. Fenris stepped behind the judge barrier before anyone else understood what was happening. The wyvern released a stream of stone shards toward the eastern balcony. I moved. The Crown Guardian crossed 50 feet before the first shard reached the crowd. I planted the shield and widened its class barrier. 300 pieces of stone struck blue light. Not one passed through. The hidden audience screens shattered. 2,000 faces appeared behind them. They saw the shield. They saw the wyvern. They saw Fenris standing inside his private barrier. The local belief joined the remote belief. The Guardian rose from level 40 to level 44. The wyvern charged. I caught its upper jaw with the shield and its lower jaw with my free hand. Its teeth stopped 1 foot from my face. The floor broke beneath me. My boots sank to the ankle. The creature pushed with enough force to move a loaded ship. The viewers began sending reactions through the broadcast crystals. Their messages appeared on the hall wall. Who opened the cage? The actor is holding it alone. Where are the bureau guards? One message simply said that Fenris's barrier looked very comfortable. I turned the wyvern's head and threw it through the empty witness platform. The creature spread its wings before striking the wall. It climbed toward the glass ceiling. I had no sword. The Crown Guardian's legend centered on defense. An audience would not believe a defender suddenly throwing fireballs because it was convenient. So I used the shield. I jumped onto the falling witness platform, pushed off, and crossed the height of the hall. I struck the wyvern's left wing joint with the shield edge. Stone cracked. The creature fell. I landed on its back and drove the round shield beneath the control collar. The metal locks broke one after another. One lock, two, the third was already open. Ivania directed a broadcast crystal toward the judge's side room. A bureau officer stood there holding the matching control key. He tried to hide it. 50,000 viewers saw him fail. The wyvern rolled. I wrapped the blue cloak around its eyes, pulled the control chain tight, and guided its head into the suppression circle. The circle cut its magic. 30 feet of stone stopped moving. I remained standing on its neck with the shield raised. The hall was silent. Then the message wall filled so quickly that the words became solid white light. The verified audience passed 80,000. My role level reached 48. My ideal actor class rose from level 18 to level 23. The Crown Guardian entered my role memory. Fendris left his barrier. The officer who opened the locks acted without authorization, he said. The officer stared at him. Sir, you ordered me to test whether the anomaly would protect civilians. Every crystal carried his voice. Fendris closed his eyes for half a second. It was the expression of a man watching his own chair catch fire. The city governor ordered the officer detained as a witness, not a criminal. The audience applauded that distinction. Fendris could not be removed by a city official. He represented the capital. But he had lost the hearing in front of the entire kingdom. The result moved through public rankings within minutes. My academy rank remained first. My national novice rank appeared for the first time at 17th. The Broadcast Guild owed the theater more than 300 gold after licensing fees, replay rights, and viewer rewards. Ivania sat down when she saw the number. 3 roofs, I said. A small village, she replied. Petitions reached the Royal Council before the wyvern was returned to its cage. More than 20,000 viewers demanded legal protection for the theater club. The council granted a temporary public charter. Fendris could no longer close the building with one order. Power, money, and status had moved again. Fendris still held one legal weapon. He opened a sealed festival order. Tomorrow night, the Royal Winter Festival will present the fall of the first Demon King. The actor will perform the role of Malzor. The black coin in my pocket burned against my leg. Lysera stepped forward. That role has not been performed in 900 years. The final act is missing. Then your club will reconstruct it. Refusal will be treated as proof that Raiden cannot control his class. Acceptance will allow the Bureau to observe any demonic response. His trap had 2 doors. Refuse, and I became an unlawful threat. Perform, and the demons connected to the coin might come. Fendris turned toward the broadcast crystals. The kingdom deserves certainty. He said certainty. He meant a public execution with good lighting. We returned to the theater after dark. The new roof no longer leaned. Workers had repaired the kitchen wall and installed an iron oven. Ivania paid them 8 gold extra to finish before the festival. She said terror was easier to manage in a dry building. Lysera made the first meal in the new oven. She baked a deep beef pie under a golden crust. Inside were pieces of meat, mushrooms, carrots, and onions in thick gravy. The crust broke with a soft crack. Steam covered the windows. We ate it with roasted potatoes and hot berry tea. For 1 hour, no officer entered, no monster attacked. Rain struck the straight roof and stayed outside like a well-trained problem. Lysera brought the notebook after dinner. What is your name? Raiden. Where is your home? I looked around the clean kitchen. Ivania was asleep with her arms around the account box. Korvik was repairing a practice sword near the stove. Here. Lysera wrote it down. What will you do if Malzor's role begins taking memories? Finish the play before it takes enough to object. That is a terrible plan. It is the only one currently funded. She reached across the table and touched the back of my hand. Then listen for my voice. Everyone else may believe the role. I will remember the man beneath it. The warmth in my hand had nothing to do with her light acolyte class. A knock sounded from the main hall. The bureau officers outside had seen no one approach. We entered the theater together. A woman stood at the center of the stage. She wore a dark red coat. 2 narrow black horns curved through her white hair. Her eyes were the color of the black coin when it became hot. Her name was Uvra. She placed an iron case on the floor and opened it. Inside rested a black crown. It was not wood. It was not painted. The horned points drank the light around them. The symbol on its front matched the coin. Ivania leaned closer. That weighs at least 30 pounds. Uvra looked offended. It was forged from the gates of the lower world. That explains the shipping cost. The demoness ignored her and knelt before me. I was the witness in the theater, she said. I watched you stand as the wounded knight. Malzor once used the same step before the Battle of Black Dawn. No human record preserved it. I learned it from a stage direction. The stage direction came from his servant. She lifted the crown with both hands. I have waited 900 years. Tomorrow you will speak his words. Every demon in the royal hall will recognize you. The system measured her belief. One demon's certainty carried more power than 80,000 distant human witnesses. The crown did not need to sit on my head to pull at the roll memory inside me. For 1 second, I remembered a black city I had never seen and an army kneeling beneath red snow. The system gave its final warning. If I wore the crown while the demons believed, Living Roll might not borrow Malzor's class. It might restore Malzor himself. Fendris's carriage arrived before breakfast. He expected us at the palace by noon, and refusal meant arrest. Ivania told the driver that artists did not discuss execution before eating and closed the door. Lysara baked apple cakes with crisp edges and soft centers. We ate them with sausage, eggs, and hot cream sweetened with honey. The black crown remained inside its case at the far end of the table. The ancient play had 3 acts, but every human copy ended before the third. Uvra claimed the saint knelt and crowned Malzor. Human histories claimed she defeated him. Human histories also call demons ugly, Uvra said. Ivania examined her horns. They are dramatic. We had 2 endings and no proof. The system had warned me to complete the ancient play, not Fendris's version. The difference could decide whether I remained myself. Lysara opened the identity notebook. Name? Ryden. Home? This theater. Current plan? Enter the role. Keep the demons from hurting anyone. Discover the true ending before Malzor removes me from my own head. That is still a terrible plan. The breakfast is better today. She almost smiled. Then she gave me the silver sun pendant she had worn during every rehearsal. Everyone in the palace will look at the crown, she said. Look at this instead. We reached the royal palace at noon. The winter festival filled the central court. 4,000 guests sat beneath glass lamps. Nobles occupied the front terraces. Academy students filled the eastern seats. Korvik's old sponsor sat in a private box and pretended not to recognize him. 7 broadcast towers carried the play to more than 200,000 viewers. Fendris knew an audience strengthened me, but he needed the kingdom to witness demons kneeling. He risked thousands of lives to earn permission to erase one anomaly. The Bureau had carved suppression seals beneath every seat. At his signal, registered class magic would vanish across the court. He told the guests the seals were for safety. I counted 60 black armored officers behind the curtains. They carried silver crossbows aimed at the stage. Ivania counted 73 people in the audience who did not breathe. Demons, Uvra said. The rest are waiting beneath the city. How many? Enough. That was not a number. I disliked it immediately. The stage crew dressed me in Malzor's armor. Black plates covered my chest and shoulders. A red cloak reached the floor. The real crown weighed 32 pounds, but the moment I touched it, the weight disappeared. Memories pressed against the edge of my mind. A city under red snow, 7 banners burning, Uvra kneeling in armor instead of a red coat. I put the silver sun pendant beneath the breastplate. Lysara wore the saint's white costume. She carried a stage sword with a real silver edge. Her light acolyte class was only level 8. Against Malzor, it would be a candle arguing with a volcano. She touched my hand before the curtain rose. Name? Ryden. Come back with it. The drums began. Ivania opened the curtain. I stepped onto the stage. The first act showed the fall of the 7 kingdoms. Painted armies moved across hanging screens. Actors fled before me. I spoke Malzor's old lines one by one. At first, the human audience saw a performance. My temporary class did not appear. Then, I reached the Black Throne. The script ordered Malzor to turn right, raise his hand, and command the defeated kings to kneel. I turned left. I did not know why. My fingers formed an unfamiliar sign. 73 figures in the audience stood at the same moment. Their human disguises failed. Horns, black eyes, and scaled hands appeared beneath the glass lights. 4,000 guests screamed. The demons knelt. Not one looked at the stage as a stage. They looked at me as their ruler. Uvra lowered her head from the front row. "The throne remembers," she said. The system reacted to their certainty. Living role activated. The role was not a copy of a modern class. It carried an ancient name. First, Demon King. The temporary level rose directly to 80. My strength reached 120. My mana reached 900. A new pressure filled the court and forced every lesser demon closer to the floor. The system did not offer a way to end the role. It sealed living role and declared that Malzor's image could not be removed until the ancient play reached its true conclusion. The first stage of identity overwrite began at 3%. Fendris rose from the royal terrace. "The evidence is complete. Raiden is the returning Demon King. Activate the seals." Silver light covered the court. Lysara's sun mark went dark. Korvik lost his sword aura. Noble mages shouted as their spells disappeared. My power remained. The seals suppressed registered classes. The first Demon King existed before the registry. That was the moment Fendris understood his mistake. He had removed everyone who might resist the demons except me. The black-armored officers fired. 60 silver bolts crossed the stage. I stopped them with one hand. Malzor's memories offered 60 fatal paths, but Raiden chose another. I turned my hand, and the bolts pinned 60 black cloaks to the floor. The unharmed officers looked like angry tents. The academy students cheered before remembering that real demons surrounded them. Fendris pointed at the kneeling figures. "Kill the humans," he shouted in the demon language. He pronounced 3 words incorrectly. One demon looked offended. Uvra rose. The other demons followed. Fear moved through the terraces. Parents covered children. Guards reached for class skills that no longer existed. I spoke one word. "Kneel." The command struck the court like thunder. Every demon returned to the ground. Uvra resisted for half a second. Then both knees touched the stone. The 200,000 remote viewers saw the first Demon King protect humans from his own followers. Their fear changed into belief. The roll rose from level 80 to level 86. Identity overwrite reached 18%. I remembered leading Uvra through a burning gate. I remembered giving her the title Red Blade. I remembered that she hated sweet wine. I had never lived any of those moments. "Continue the play," I said. My voice no longer sounded entirely like mine. Fendris stared. "Arrest him." His officers were still pinned to the floor. Ivania started the second act. The painted battlefield rose into the ceiling. White steps moved onto the stage. Lysara entered as the saint. The ancient lines pulled at us. She demanded that Malzor release the captured kingdoms. I refused. She accused him of choosing a crown over his own name. The last line was not in the surviving script. When Lysara spoke it, the crown tightened around my head. "What was his name before the world called him king?" she asked. The demons looked up. Uvra's face changed. She knew the answer. "There was no name before Malzor," she said. The system marked the statement false. A memory opened inside the roll. I saw a young man standing at a village gate. He had no crown. He held a farmer's spear. People behind him called a name, but fire covered the sound. Malzor had possessed another name. The ancient roll had eaten it. Identity overwrite reached 39%. I looked at Lysara and could not remember the color of her hair. She touched the sun pendant beneath my armor. "Name?" The correct answer waited somewhere behind 900 years of borrowed memory. "Malzor," Uvra whispered. The demons repeated it. The roll surged to level 90. I took one step toward the throne. If I sat while the court believed in the coronation, the third act would follow Uvra's version. The role would become permanent. Raiden would become the forgotten name beneath another crown. Lysara blocked the throne. She had no active magic. She was physically weaker than every officer in the hall. Her sword trembled in her hand. She still did not move. "You counted 9 copper coins under the old clock tower," she said. "You sleep beside a box of artificial bones. You hate wet socks. You put too much pepper in stew." The statements were not part of the play. Fendris smiled. She broke the scene. The roll will collapse and destroy him. It did not collapse. The system had forbidden that. But thousands of humans stopped seeing Malzor for 1 second. They saw the strange actor who had guarded a gate, hunted 2 boars, healed a dying man, and held a wyvern away from a crowd. One message appeared on the broadcast wall. His name is Raiden. Another followed. Raiden held the gate. Then 10,000. The palace guests began saying my name. The academy students shouted it first. The city audience joined. Across the kingdom, viewers sent it through their crystals. Raiden. Human belief did not erase the Demon King role. It changed the man they believed was performing it. Identity overwrite fell from 39% to 28%. I remembered Lysara's hair. Dark gold. Fenris pulled a small black key from his coat. "Open the lower seal," he ordered. The officer in the control chamber obeyed. Stone cracked beneath the palace. Demonic smoke poured through the stage floor. Fenris had prepared a second disaster. If I rejected the role, the smoke would drive the kneeling demons mad. If they slaughtered the guests, he would still win the story. Ivania turned the rear broadcast crystal toward the control chamber. The kingdom saw the officer, the key, and Fenris's matching order seal. The message wall changed. The inspector opened it. He planned the attack. "Remove Fenris." The royal counselors stepped away from him. He reached for the emergency gate. Korvik stood in front of it. His class was suppressed, but he still knew how to hold a sword. "You told me power without obedience was dangerous," Korvik said. "You forgot obedience can be dangerous too." Fenris struck him with a hidden blade. Korvik blocked. The impact drove him against the door, but he stayed standing. Every witness saw the inspector attack a student to escape his own hearing. His public authority broke before his badge did. The demonic smoke reached the first row. I raised the Black Crown's power and commanded the lower gate to close. It resisted. The seal recognized Malzor. It had been built to hold him, not obey him. The true third act opened inside my borrowed memory. The ancient play had not ended with a coronation or a heroic execution. Malzor had ordered the saint to strike the crown. The crown contained the title, the authority, and every identity it had consumed. Breaking it would close the lower gate. It would also release whatever remained of Malzor beyond the roll. That was why every copy lacked the ending. Someone had wanted the crown intact. Uvra understood what I had remembered. "Do not," she said. "Our people need their king. They need a future more than they need a dead man's mask." The words belonged to me. Identity overwrite fell to 16%. I faced Lysara. "The final line," I said. "Ask the king who he chooses to save." She understood. Lysara raised the silver-edged sword. "Who stands behind your final gate?" I looked at 4,000 frightened guests. I looked at the demons forced into a legend that had ended 9 centuries earlier. I looked at the theater club beside a curtain Ivania had repaired 3 times. "Everyone," I said. For the first time, humans and demons believed the same thing. They believed the Demon King would protect the people behind him. The roll reached level 100. I used all 900 mana at once. Black fire surrounded the smoke without touching a single person. I pulled the corruption back toward the lower gate. The stone court split beneath my boots. Every demon lowered its head. Every broadcast crystal turned black around the edges. "Now," I said. Lysara struck the crown. The silver blade broke. The crown cracked. A sound like a mountain taking one breath crossed the kingdom. Black light erupted above the palace. It formed the shape of a horned giant, then separated into thousands of small flames. Each flame carried a fragment of a forgotten name. The lower gate closed. The suppression seals shattered. The ancient play reached its true conclusion. Living Roll released me. My strength fell from 120 to 6 so quickly that my knees folded. Lysara caught me before the broken crown reached the floor. "Name?" she asked. The entire palace waited. "Raiden." The answer crossed every broadcast tower. 4,000 guests stood. 200,000 viewers sent the same name back. Demons remained on their knees, but now they watched me with confusion instead of certainty. Uvra picked up one piece of the crown. "You are not Malzor," she said. "I have been saying that since dinner." She almost smiled. "No, you are more inconvenient." Royal guards surrounded Fenris. His bureau badge had gone dark. The message wall continued replaying his order to open the lower seal. He looked at me across the ruined court. "You proved my warning," he said. "One performer controlled a kingdom's belief. You provided the monsters, the seals, the weapons, and the audience," I said. "I provided a play." Laughter moved through the court. It was not the laughter from my awakening. That sound had pushed me out. This one closed around Fenris. Korvik removed the inspector's silver badge and handed it to the royal council. Fenris had tried to make my public execution his proof. Instead, The kingdom watched him leave between the same black-armored officers he had ordered to kill me. After midnight, my ideal actor class rose from level 23 to level 30 and evolved into Master of Roles. My natural strength increased from 6 to 12, and my mana from 5 to 15. My 7 roles remained recorded, but the system sealed Malzor until I learned what had escaped the crown. The Royal Council awarded the theater 1,000 gold, a permanent charter, and my place as the kingdom's first-ranked novice. 50 cities requested performances before sunrise. Every measure of power, resources, and status had moved again. We returned to the theater before dawn. Ivania locked the 1,000 gold in 3 separate boxes, then slept across all of them. Korvik took the first security shift without being asked. Uvra disappeared with a crown fragment after promising that the demon court would demand answers. Lysara heated chicken soup in the new kitchen. Thin noodles curled through clear golden broth with pieces of chicken, carrots, garlic, and green herbs. We ate it with warm bread and berry jam while rain tapped the roof. No water fell inside. That was my favorite victory of the week. Lysara sat beside me after the others slept. Name? Raiden. Home? Here. What do you like? I looked at her hand resting near mine. I am still calculating. She moved her hand over the remaining inch and linked her fingers with mine. Calculate slowly. For a few minutes, I did. Then the black coin split inside my pocket. Cold entered the theater. The system detected a new audience far beyond the northern border. 300,000 demons had turned toward the capital and knelt at the same moment. Their belief did not call me Raiden. It called me the thief who had broken their king's crown. The sealed first Demon King roll opened one eye inside my memory. Through it, I saw a tomb beneath a field of red snow. A stone hand moved on a black throne. Ancient chains snapped one after another. A man wearing Malzor's face opened his eyes in the darkness. He looked across 900 miles as if he could see me holding Lysara's hand. Then the real first Demon King spoke. There cannot be 2 of us.